Friends, we are going to begin the funeral service for Muriel. If you have a cell phone, I'd ask you kindly to place it in a silent mode at this time or turn it completely off. I'd also like to welcome anybody via live stream. On behalf of the family, thank you for attending. And services will be conducted by Cantor Howard Friedland.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Dayan ha'emet Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach Yishem Adonai mivarach. Blessed are you, eternal our God, sovereign of all worlds, who is the righteous judge. God has given, God has taken away. Blessed be God's name. Welcome to all of you who are here and all of you who are here online. We've come together as family and as community to express our sacred sorrow. We have come together to draw strength from one another and from the ultimate source of all strength. We have come together to affirm comfort and blessing in the face of deepest loss. And we have come together to bid farewell to Muriel Cowen. We share a common prayer that the source of healing sustains those of you who grieve. May those wounded with loss be blessed with love and compassion. We pray that the journey that lies ahead lead from darkness to light. As it is written, "Thus says the source of hope, I will respond to your yearning. When you call out to me in the night, I will answer. I will be with you even in the darkest of places. I will give you strength. I will nourish you, and you shall know protection beneath the shelter of my wings." And we extend condolences to Muriel's family. She was, of course, the beloved wife of the late James Cowen, devoted mother of Judy, Michael Thompson, and Sue Cowen, grandmother to Leslie and James Helrung, and Matthew and Kim Thompson, and great-grandmother of Alex, Sylvia, Georgia, and Henry. To all of you, I extend my condolences, and to all of you here and those of you beyond, when we're missing someone who's passed away, who was a force in our lives, we know no bounds of blood. It hurts just as much. So to all of you who are grieving today, my condolences to you. And we pray for wholeness and compassion in the days to come. Let us say, Amen. The 23rd Psalm. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo achsar, Minot dashe yarbitzeni, al memenuchot yenachaleni. Nafshi yeshovev, Yancheni v'magle tzedek, Yancheni v'magle tzedek, leman shemo. Gam ki elech begetz al mavet, lo hirara ki ata imadi. Shivtecha umishantecha, hema yinachamuni. Taroch lefanai, Shulchan neged tzorerai, Dishantov Hashem en Roshi Kosir Vayon Ach Tov Chesed Yildifoni Kol Yemei Chayoi V'shaveti bevet Adonai leorech yamim. Adonai roi lo echsar. Adonai roi lo echsar. Let's read together the translation of the 23rd Psalm found in your pamphlets. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Psalm 116, Esa enai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai ose shamayim va'aretz. My eyes look into the void. From where will my help come? My help comes from my very source, the fashioner of order and of harmony. Your guardian will catch you when you slip. Your shelter will protect you while you sleep. Your night will not last forever, for your protector will surely bring back the sun in the morning. Your source will watch over you at all times. And as you came into this world, swaddled in loving embrace, so shall you leave. From Kohelet, the book of Ecclesiastes. Dor holech v'dor ba v'ha'aretz l'olam omadet. A generation goes, a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises, the sun sets and glides back to where it rises again. Southward blowing, turning northward, ever turning, blows the wind. On its rounds, the wind returns. All streams flow into the sea, but the sea is never full. To the place from which they flow, there they flow back again. And finally, this entry by Rabbi Alvin Fine. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination. And life is a journey from childhood to maturity and youth to age. From innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back, we pray, to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death is a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage. The Torah is the sacred book of the Jewish people. It marks the sacred pilgrimage of our people from one point to the next, and I believe every person writes their personal Torah of their journey stage by stage. And no journey is too small from which to learn how to live life. In fact, I think often we learn the best way to live from those whose lives were humble. Greatness is not necessarily achieved in doing great things, but sometimes doing small things. The Torah of Muriel's life shows us a person of love and kindness, also of tenacity. You don't get to be 95 years old without it. The best people, the best characters in Torah show us how to live, and the worst characters in Torah show us how not to live. And it's no surprise that often those two characters are found in one entity, in one person, right? Like all of us. We are human beings with our strengths and our weaknesses, just trying to do the best we can and answering those questions in life which are universal. How did we get here? What's our purpose while we're here? What do we leave behind to those who succeed us? And where do we go once we leave here? And some of those questions we can answer while we're on earth, and some we cannot. And so it is, we'll learn the good ways to live from Muriel's life. To tell of her Torah, of her teaching, and Torah literally means teaching. We learn from everyone's life. First, her grandson, Matt.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. I know some of you I don't know, but I appreciate your presence all the same. I assume everyone here knew my grandmother, and if you knew her, you're already familiar with her generosity, her kindness, her open-mindedness, her charisma, and her natural ability to put other people at ease. And I'm fortunate that she's been part of my life since I was a baby. Even from an early age, I recognized her benevolence, and I'm privileged that I knew all four of my grandparents. Actually, I know not everybody is so lucky. And they all did important things that grandparents do, and they each had their own unique ways of expressing and showing love for me, and I knew that they loved me. But that being said, if I'm going to be honest, Muriel was by far my most accessible grandparent. She's the one who always felt the most real to me. And somehow I felt like I was just a little more myself around her. Even when I was a child, she wasn't merely an anachronistic old person who lived in the present time and acted like an old person. I felt like she understood and appreciated me. And that's the kind of genuine human connection that even as adults, people hunger for and search for with the same desperation as a wayward voyager spying an oasis in the desert. And I had that all along in her. She's the closest person I had to a second mom, and the unparalleled excellence with which my actual mother has served in that role is undoubtedly thanks in part to my grandmother's influence. Muriel was the only grandparent around whom I felt comfortable crying or sharing a vulnerability or even being ribald or profane at times. This knack for helping people feel embraced and accepted is, in my opinion, her most enduring gift. And when it came to gifts, she was relentlessly magnanimous with her time, her energy, her patience, and her material resources. My own family has benefited from all of those things and her goodwill over the years. But my most visceral gratitude in that regard is the way in which she welcomed my beautiful bride, Kim, who just stepped out of the room to take care of our daughter, into her orbit with sincerity and joy. They imprinted on each other very quickly, and I will always be grateful for that. And I also take solace that our children, Georgia and Alex, got to spend time with their great-grandmother before she had to leave. Muriel's presence is woven into the fabric of my existence, and I could recount dozens of impactful interactions that we shared. There are two specific things I'll recount briefly. On one occasion, when we were visiting her in grandfather's house in Highland Park when I was 13 or 14, it was probably during summer or spring break, and I availed myself of their enviable television options, and I started watching the movie Under Siege 2: Dark Territory after hours. And Muriel was just shutting down the house, and she stopped into the room to bid me goodnight, and I thought that would be that, but she lingered. She was apparently very keen in following the Steven Seagal action film where mercenaries take over a passenger train. And before long, she had just made herself comfortable on the sofa, and I filled her in on the plot points she had missed, which for those of you who have seen that movie know that didn't take very long to do. And we watched the whole thing together, and I didn't feel the least bit awkward, even though there was a little bit of naughty stuff in the movie, even though there were bouts of frequent violence and swearing and sexual situations. We were just hanging out watching. And this is just a benign, pleasant thing that I think fondly of and reminds me that we loved each other. She also always had a very comfortable home. She kept a lovely house on Briar Lane. It was colorful inside. It was tastefully appointed. And it always evoked feelings of ebullience and familiarity when I was there. I looked forward every time we visited to discovering the small things that may have changed. You know, a new lamp, different plates in the kitchen, new wallpaper, different knick-knack to mess with, just little things. But no matter what, my sister and I never were made to feel like we were intruding or destabilizing the environment. It was very welcoming for children. It was a hospitable, safe haven, and it's an important memory from my childhood. So above all, the most important things I remember about Muriel was that she was a profoundly optimistic person, and she strove to see the best in other people. And that's something that I will aspire to do for the rest of my time, and I'm very grateful that she was here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matt. Next we'll hear from Muriel's granddaughter, Leslie.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. I've spent the past several days trying to figure out how I can even put words into my love and adoration for my grandma. And then I realized when I was trying to kind of figure out exactly what to say that would do her justice, that what she would tell me is, Leslie, don't worry about it. Just talk, speak from your heart. She never was one to get really stressed out about things or to overthink. She always just took life as it came. So I am going to try my very best to just briefly speak from my heart. And I was trying to think, I've spent the past couple of days I've actually been sleeping at my grandma's apartment just to sort of feel close to her while she's not here. And it's been really peaceful and wonderful and has filled me with such love and joy to just sort of be near things ranging from her gold house slippers, because she was never boring. She was going to have gold house slippers. Her Benny Neal romance novels that were still on her nightstand. The plants that she so lovingly took care of until the day she died. She loved plants and gardening. And I was surrounded the past few nights by photos of all of you, the people who she surrounded herself with were part of who she was, and her grandkids and her great-grandkids. And I unearthed letters and cards from many of you that she had kept for decades that just obviously brought her joy. So it was so clear to me, and just living the past couple of days in that house full of love and joy and warmth, it was another way to feel connected to her. I think we also feel connected when we think about our memories, and I could sit here for hours and tell you memories that I have of Muriel, because she, just as my brother said, really does feel like a second mom. And despite living 5 hours away, she was there for all of our birthdays, graduations, weddings, everything. She was there. Even as she got to be really much older, like last summer, she's 94, and we met in Iowa, and she was having a water gun fight with my kids. So she never let anything like that stop her. And I think of the memories of when we would come to her house on Briar Lane that Matt was telling you about. She had an entire room dedicated teddy bears, and it was called the Bear Room. And so with great joy and eagerness, when we would arrive, we would go and see who's in the Bear Room and what's changed. And we're talking hundreds of stuffed animals. And that really, to me, speaks to who she is, that despite us coming up just a few times a year, she had a whole room dedicated to something that would bring us joy and bring her joy. And if you looked at the bears, you could see they were from people who loved her, people who gave them to her for special occasions, bears from her travels. And I just think it kind of embodies Muriel's sense of humor, her silliness, her joy for life, her love, the fact that she doesn't get stuck on appearances, and she was very real and authentic. And then when I started to think, obviously I'm going to have to go back to Kansas, and I'm not going to be able to keep hanging out in her apartment, and things are going to change and move on. But just as you were saying earlier about the Lord giveth and he taketh away, wow, did he give to us with her. Wow. And all of us are so blessed. Anyone who has come into contact with her, whether it's the deli counter lady that she would kibitz with, or her neighbors, or my mom's childhood friends, my aunt's childhood friends, she would welcome into her home. She knew no stranger. So I like to think anyone who's had the blessing of interacting with her, as we all separate today and go forth on our own journeys and our own lives, that we will take a piece of her with us, and what she has taught us. And what she has taught me is to never take life for granted, live for the moment, don't get too hung up on the little things, which I often do, so I have to remind myself of that. And when I look at my children's eyes, and their love of life and their genuineness and compassion, I will always think of Muriel. So in many ways, I look at today, yes, we have lost her physical presence, but my goodness, we all have so much that we have learned that we will go forth with and continue to spread her love and joy until we are no longer here. So I miss her a lot. And yeah, she was pretty great. So anybody who's here, I think, would know that. Thank you.
Leslie, thank you so much. It's interesting, as both you and Matt spoke, I was thinking how often it is that someone who is an old person is often viewed in a stereotype of what their physical manifestation may be, but that we all, and I know this as I'm getting older myself, you stay young inside, no matter how you change on the outside, and you still have those dreams that you had, when you were a young person. But the fact that your grandmother was not just a person you knew by greeting card for your birthday or for a holiday, but really had a relationship with and had an impact on both you and your children is a real blessing, because so many of us live so far away today that being together is next to impossible, and of course it was made very difficult the last few years. And the point of her coming to plays and sporting events and whatever else you had in person is a lesson. It would be enough for us to come here today and to honor Muriel's life, but better to come honor her life and then leave this room having been changed in some way because of the way she lived. And really, I think today especially, to be able to be there for each other in person. Technology has enabled people to come from far away, and that's a good thing, but I think it's so important to be in a room and breathe the same air and exchange the same energy, because there is nothing like that. And for Muriel to really have come and to be there for those occasions was a blessing. Muriel was born in 1927 in Boston. She was an only child, had a very, very happy childhood. She went to college for 2 years in the Boston area, and then she worked at a lab where she took blood. She worked at Mass General in Boston, and she met James through his sister. She and James, her husband of so many years, had known each other actually in their childhood, but they came together. He I'd been a navigator on a B-17 in the war and later graduated from Harvard in math. They built a life together. Judy was born in 1952 and Sue in 1954, and then the family moved to the Chicago area to Park Forest and then Rogers Park to Skokie, and then finally landing in Highland Park, where Muriel had a wonderful garden, I am told, as Leslie was saying. She had so many plants. She loved gardening, she loved traveling, mysteries, loved reading. She volunteered at Highland Park Hospital, went on cruises with James, went to Europe. Everyone loved her, I'm told, and she was a kind, positive person with a positive outlook, never complained, lived in the present with a positive outlook for the future. The people at Lincolnwood Place, where she finally resided, loved her, they adored her. She adored her grandchildren, her great-grandchildren. Her legacy was to be open to people. She didn't live with regrets. That's the best lesson we can have. I think, to be positive, living in the present with a positive outlook towards the future. And being thankful for the things you have, for your plants, and for the people around you, and for golden slippers if you happen to have those too. But to love the people and nature, and not so much to love things and to hold those. Muriel also was a lover of dogs. She rescued Buttons and Sugar, and a total of 6 dogs over the course of her life. There's a blessing we say daily in the prayer service. Baruch merachem al habriot. Blessed is the one who has compassion upon all creatures. And sometimes I think you can see what a person is really like in the way that they treat their pets, if they even have pets, and to rescue a pet who is in need of love. It says a lot about her. Leslie, you mentioned that Muriel will live on in memory. And I think that's true. We say in our tradition that people live on in the memories of those who live here. And I don't think it's just lip service. I think, of course, a sweater or a perfume that someone wore, or the way they hugged you, or the feel of their hair and things that they had that you can still see, live in us. And even sometimes you can probably see a smile in even one of your children that is the same as what was in Muriel's face. And we live on in that way. And I hope you continue to tell the stories of her life in the days and weeks and months that pass over the course of this year of mourning and beyond. And so, Muriel, it's our prayer that you may rest in peace, and that the kindness and the love and the light that was your life continues to shine through your family, through your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and all of those friends and relatives who knew you. Zichronah livracha, may your memory be a blessing. And so I'll now ask you, as you are able, to please rise for Al Malei Rachamim, the memorial prayer. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamramim, Hametzeh Menucha Nechona Tachat Chanfei Hashchina, B'malot Kedoshim Utehorim, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת Muriel Cowen שהלך לעולמו. ענה ברחמים הסתירה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור ביצור לחיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו ותנוח al mishkavo vinomar Amen. God, filled with compassion, whose loving presence ever surrounds us, bring final rest to the soul of Muriel Cowen, who has returned to her source. May the memory of her life shine forth like the brilliance of the skies above, as it brightens our own lives even now. May you, who are the source of all compassion, shelter her beneath the protection of your wings and bind her soul among the living, that she may rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. Please be seated.
This does conclude the service here at the chapel. The family will be receiving condolences today at Lincolnwood Place at 7000 McCormick Boulevard in Lincolnwood, today from 3 until 5 p.m. That information is on your folder, so if you didn't get one when you enter the chapel, please get one when you leave. That information is also on our website. Interment will take place at Shalom Memorial Park at 1700 West Rand Road in Arlington Heights. Please keep in mind a few safety features if you're going in procession to the cemetery. Keep your bright headlights on at all times. Put your emergency blinkers on. Attach the orange funeral sticker to the passenger portion of your front windshield. And we'll also attach a flag to the roof of your car. And please stay as close as safety permits to the car in front of you. Let us all rise as the family, the cantor, and Muriel are escorted from the chapel. We'll have Matt come forward along with some of our staff members.